What's going on, everyone? I wanted to jump on here, do a quick meal prep talk. All right, just finished up my meal prep, and a lot of you said that you enjoyed this series, so I might as well bring another one. Today I want to talk to you about, and this one's very off the cuff, it's not scripted or nothing like that, but just some things that are going through my mind, some things that I encountered throughout the week or conversations I had and so on. And really the topic about today's it's gonna have to do with nutrition all the time. Today's is really gonna have to do with people that are just trying to cut carbs or try that program or this program, and really, what is the best way to diet, okay? Because I think the question in itself is the biggest issue here. When people think that there's one better way than another, it just ruins everything, okay? It causes a duality. So let me give you an example. There's a man named Jordan Peterson. Maybe you've heard of him, maybe you haven't, but he's a academic, an intellect, from my opinion. I think he's a very smart man. I'll put the post up from his Instagram page here to show you that he's world-renowned at this point. Some people may or may not agree with his views, but the point is he's definitely an educated man. He posted this picture of him eating meat, and he goes on to talk about when he tried the carnivore diet, or ever since he's been on the carnivore diet, he has, and then he lists an endless amount of insanely amazing benefits, okay? And then it's funny because you'll also go to a vegan's page, let's say, or somebody trying some other form of diet, sometimes keto, and you'll see them put that they actually experience the exact same benefits, or a multitude of all these amazing benefits health-wise, right? The truth is they can all work, okay? So for example, one thing that people put is, oh, I've lost tons of weight doing the carnivore diet, or I lost tons of weight doing the keto diet, or vegan, and so on. But that's because you've cut calories. That's why you lose weight, not because you suddenly cut vegetables out or cut meat out of your diet. Okay, that comes down to the fundamentals. And really, the reality here is that the form of diet you choose really doesn't matter. All that matters is the framework of how you're approaching the diet. So what I mean by that is basically what I teach. Calories, macronutrients, and hitting those numbers. Literally, those two things lay the foundation, or the framework, if you will, for any and all diets to fit within and you can yield results from. So I'll give you an example. If you want to take veganism, okay? Well, if you choose to go vegan, right, you can eat avocados, for example, peanuts, cashews, almonds, oils. All these things are still considered vegan. The issue is that they still have calories, okay? Every diet is still bound by the fundamental concept of calories. And so just because I go vegan, and this happens to a lot of people, doesn't mean that I'm going to suddenly lose weight, get my dream body, and it's the best thing of all time, the greatest thing since sliced bread. No, that is not the case, because if I eat too much, I can still get unhealthy. There's still a very high chance that you will eat too much, because if you're not tracking your calories, if you have no idea about this framework, about the foundation that causes most of the benefits that people experience from their so-called diets, well then it doesn't really mean that you're gonna achieve those benefits as well, okay? So that's one thing, is understand the framework and understand that one diet is not superior to another from a standpoint of seeing some benefits in the short term, but what are the long-term pros and cons? That's something that a lot of people don't seem to ask. And when I say long term, I'm not talking 1, 2, 3 years. I'm talking 5, 10, 15, 20 years, right? When you get older, has what you've been doing up until that point, because we all know the compounding effect and potential issues that could arise from only eating meat. I can think of a few myself, from based off what I've researched, based off what I've seen, based off what we know. People don't take that into account simply because they're seeing short-term benefits of them losing fat and losing weight, not because of the diet that they're on, but because they are bound by the foundation of eating less calories, or eating more nutrient dense foods, cutting out processed foods, these types of things. So the issue with things like keto, or thinking that one is superior than another, okay, and why I don't typically like these extremist diets or putting a label on these things, is because, well, they are all bound by duality. And what is duality? Again, like I mentioned in the beginning, duality is thinking that one thing is right. Okay, so you've got a spectrum, a continuum, if you will. Over here you've got carnivore, over here you've got vegan. Okay, well, The funny thing is the truth, the optimal lies somewhere in between. You've got the thesis, the antithesis, and you have the synthesis. The synthesis is typically where you find truth, where you find optimal, where you find what works best. So you have somebody who's on the carnivore diet. That's an extreme approach. Even still fitting within those boundaries that I mentioned, that's an extreme approach towards dieting. And so over time, you've actually neglected a lot of what's on the other end of the spectrum. And this actually leads to issues, because if you're taking out a whole food group or types of foods, you are missing out on nutrients that come more abundantly in those types of foods. So believe it or not, if you cut out all sugar and all processed foods, people think that that's healthy. No, it's an extremist way to diet. All extremist measures never work long term, at least when it comes to dieting for your health and fitness, okay? So again, the carnivore diet, sure, maybe you can stick to that for a long time, no problem. I know that veggies and fruits aren't necessarily the most appealing or greatest tasting things when you can have things like candy and whatnot. I'm not sure if you can on the carnivore diet, but the point is, sure, maybe you can stick to it for a long time, but you're neglecting the fact that there's a whole other world, a whole other end of that spectrum, that without it, you're still gonna be deficient in a lot of things. And so the short term, the first 3 to 10 years may seem okay because you experience the benefits of being lower in body weight, okay? You have to understand that losing body fat and losing body weight is gonna take care of a vast majority of most of people's problems in the short term. But in the long term, it really comes down to nutrients. Have you been nutrient deficient for a long time? For example, I can have my diet on point, but if I never see the sun, I start to begin to become deficient in vitamin D, which is very important. Or if you never eat fruits and vegetables, there are an insurmountable amount of nutrients that you're missing out on. On the opposite end, veganism isn't necessarily all it's made out to be either, because again, it's extreme. And vegans do still have issues that you find. Lower iron, for example, and other nutrients that you can find in meat. So, I'm not here to tell you if you're vegan, stop being vegan, or if you like the carnivore, stop doing it, or if you're keto, stop doing it. What I'm asking is for you to really take a step back and ask yourself, is this sustainable in the long term? Have you researched and seen what are the things that maybe you're missing out on? Because don't forget, you're living on the end of a spectrum. So you might be thinking, John, well, what are you saying? What do you follow? Well, I follow flexibility. And flexibility sounds like a term, it sounds like a diet, it sounds like, if it fits your macros, sounds like a diet, okay? But in reality, it is the framework. I just follow the framework and I work within it to include the entire spectrum of foods. I'm having in a year's time, I will experience and eat every type of food that there is. And so the chances of me being nutrient deficient are much less. The chances of me being restricted are much less. The chances of me sticking to it in the long term are much greater. That's why what I preach is not something from a guru. I'm not a guru. I simply bring to you the framework that any and all humans can use and mold their own lifestyle, preferences, schedule, lives within. The second you take a spectrum and start leaning towards one end or the other, you'll find that you're gonna be missing out on the other side, okay? Remember, it always lies somewhere in the middle. Flexibility is that balance, okay? Simply work with the framework of calories and macronutrients, doing your best to hit that with eating roughly 80% of your foods being nutrient dense. Now that could mean meat, that could mean fruits and veggies, that could mean whatever the case may be. And the other 20% are really just foods that you feel like having, that you prefer, that you enjoy, that will help you in terms of mental sanity perhaps, or performance the next day, whatever the case may be. Maybe you choose to go 100% nutrient dense. That's fine. Obviously there's nothing wrong with that. But is it sustainable in the long term? If you're using a flexible approach because you're really just going off the framework that sets any and all nutrition amongst every human on this planet, and you work within that framework, and you will be okay. If you're sitting on one extreme or the other, take a step back and ask yourself, are you in the extreme? Have you had to cut out and completely restrict one side of foods and all that? Well, then there may be an issue in the long term. And I'm not saying that there will be for sure in your case, but I'm saying be educated enough, be open-minded enough to take that step back and analyze and see for yourself, Is this something you can sustain long term? And just because you're seeing short-term benefits, is it really because of the diet you're on? Or is it because you're hitting the framework without even knowing it? I hope that makes sense, guys. Anyways, that's all I got for today's video. Hope y'all enjoyed it. So I just finished my meal prep over here. I'm gonna be bringing some more content to the channel as always. So make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share with your friends, family, whoever needs to see this, you know what I'm saying? And I'll be seeing y'all in that next video. I'm out.